So this right here is the Subaru motor that I have to put in that Subaru. And I broke my phone, so guess I gotta put this on hold and go get another one. Maybe I can... Well, one new phone and one Chinese buffet later. Let's get back to actually putting that motor in, so maybe I can get something done today. Alright, so I have pretty much gotten almost everything up that I need to remove from up here removed, and you know, motor mounts even loose and everything. So right now we're at a point where I can lift it up. I can do the bell housing bolts underneath, drop the exhaust underneath, and you know, the couple other things, the flywheel bolts and whatnot. Once I drop it back down, then there's a couple other things to disconnect just so I can remove the motor. It's the new motor that has a damaged one. There's a crack here and it's cracked up down here. So yeah, I got to put the good timing cover on the good motor and then kind of, you know, mix the best of both pieces together and then put a motor back in this Subaru. All right. Hopefully this half-inch extension is long enough. Exhaust is technically off, and I could disconnect it here as well, but I don't see that as necessary right now. So down here, there's 2 bolts on each side that I've taken out, or actually a nut and a bolt on each side. Then I had to drop the exhaust, pull the manifold off anyway. So on most engines, you would take out the flywheel bolts from the bottom and you'd stick a wrench or a ratchet in from the transmission side to get them out, to pull them out that way. On the Subaru motors, under this throttle body, there's a little access cover plate here, and we're going to stick a 23mm on the crank bolt here, spin the engine around, and get access to all 4 of those flywheel bolts there, and pull those off. And now that we've removed this intake, we have so much access to all sorts of fun stuff back here. So we're almost there. There's not a whole lot left to remove here before we can just yank this motor out. Okay, where is my little pry bar? I don't know. Right there, okay. So I think, I don't really think there's much else holding this motor on. I got that one. Yep, got it. Yeah, so I should have gotten them all. Now it's just kind of stuck in there, you know. All right, let's raise this thing up. And it should be everything, except I'm not finding a real good place to pry. What is it still stuck on? Yep, 1, 2, 3, and the stud. Then we got the stud, that one, and we got that one and that one.
That doesn't sound good.
I can't find anything else that still needs to go. All the bell housing bolts are off, all the torque converter bolts are off.
Just might be seized a little. Hit it with a rubber mallet.
I need a rubber mallet.
Yeah, it's in one of the drawers.
No.
There's nothing interesting happening.
I won't cry on that too hard.
It should split. Why is it not coming apart? Is there...
Unhook it from the... Might be able to... Because you got the engine mount still hooked up, right?
Yeah, but those are on the transmission side.
Yeah, I mean this front mount is still on.
No.
It's out the way. Well, maybe put that back on and lift it back up. And, I don't know, see, make sure you got all the bolts on the bottom. I don't see any bolts up top here. Yeah. Like right in that crevice right there. There you go.
Oh, there it goes.
And then, double check and make sure you got everything out.
I lifted it up multiple times checking.
Yeah, that just closed up the hole. Yeah. those dowel pins or?
Gotta be a pin. Yo. Hello?
Hey,
What's
what's going on?
up? Balls deep in a Subaru motor right now.
Oh, you putting that motor in?
Yep.
Yeah, you called me earlier.
Yeah, it was a pocket tile. I broke my phone and the screen was all growing screwy. Let's get it.
Hit those dowel pins with an air hammer. You won't knock them out.
I'm gonna lift it up one more time, take a peek under it. Maybe if I take off this front motor mount, there'll be room for it to slide forward.
I don't think that's what's stopping it
Well,
though.
they wouldn't slide,
Are there
not stopping it, but
Are there side motor mounts?
no. It's
No?
just the transmission mounts that are on the transmission part of it.
What I would maybe do is loosen this bolt, put this back on, and then it looks like you can maybe get a pry bar under here a little bit better. Even just
Into
like
here or
yeah,
something.
and then at least get it cracked. I would put that motor mount back on first though. Make sure it don't drop on your head.
Oh. Can't break the motor anymore.
Oh, break your head.
No, that's not helpful. Make sure there's nothing in the front here preventing it from sliding forward.
That was almost my face.
Yeah, happens. Yeah, this thing is weak as This is way too stuck. Alright, so that was not fun to separate. I checked it like 7,000 times just to make sure I didn't actually forget anything, a little hidden bolt I didn't see or something, and I got everything, but it's got 2 dowel pins on each side. The bottoms are studs, which are probably corroded all the way through, so sometimes it does take a lot of messing around just to make that initial split. Alright. Okay. We've made that initial split, but this motor has to come out quite a bit before it actually lifts up because it's got those long pins. But at least we're making progress in the right direction now. Come on. All right, now. Starting to go. Need to make it a little more straight down at the bottom there so the engine actually wants to come out. Otherwise it'll just be more prying, which is what it's going to be anyway. There we go. Just all right. Now before we raise it up, I want to look around, make sure we're not still connected to anything. Which, yeah, these heater hoses are just tucked back in there. They're not actually connected. So I think we're clear. Nope. I don't think I need anything off of it right now. So I've decided instead of putting it on here and bringing it all the way around, I'm just gonna drag this engine over here, and then we'll have less messing around with this thing. I'm going to change the timing cover to put the non-cracked one on, and I think that's about all I need to do on this one. These are just extra bolts that came with it. Sometimes when the dismantlers take them apart, they just leave bolts on the engine. We can see that this timing cover is damaged, and we do not want to be using a damaged timing cover. So we're going to take the cover off, and then ideally, as long as I'm in here, would be a good time just to do the timing. The timing cover off now. And ooh. Looks like it's been sitting a little bit, and I see some cracks in the timing belt. So while I'm in here, I'm just gonna do the timing belt as well. I guess if I must. Good enough. I need a crank bolt so I can spin the motor. Whoop. I guess there's the other 23. Looks like that's a tooth off anyway. I literally just did the timing on this Subaru like a couple weeks ago. So everything in here should be nice and clean and looking good. See how much nicer all these bearings look, all these pulleys, this belt. This is definitely the belt to use. So, okay, so hopefully you can see this. If we move this belt around, hopefully you can see all these little cracks in here. It only takes one of those to finally separate, to blow this motor apart and have it lock up. So we're gonna get rid of this belt. And we're gonna put all the brand new timing stuff from that motor onto this one. It only makes sense as long as I'm this far into it. I'd have to double check. It's okay. I'm not using it anyway. Alright. Yeah, the fastest way to take off the timing belt is just to undo the tensioner. So. Why is there a little nick in there? That's eventually going to start eating the belt. There's just the tiniest of little burrs right there. I don't know what that came from. But I'd rather have it be recessed instead of sticking out. Alright. That one's good. That one came from bottom left. And then I got one more to move over. I'm not gonna bother with the timing or the water pump. If I need to go back in and do it, it's not that hard to get back into it to do it. But as long as it's sealed, I would rather just let it stay sealed and not mess with it right now. Oops. Ouch. Just crushed my fingers behind that gear. Alright. Now these are hydraulic tensioners. So you just want to go slow and easy with them, because that hydraulic pressure has to kind of bleed off a little bit. Alright, I find that little Allen wrenches work good for these grenade pins. So now that we have the tensioner pushed back, here's the bushing that goes in here, and then this goes in there like that. You know, I may have put this in the wrong way. There we go. Now you see how this belt doesn't have any of that cracking. It's a nice, new, fresh belt. It's not going to break prematurely. It should last the rest of this engine. Okay, so now we're going to actually start these by hand. That's not the one I want to use. All right, now this is a plastic gear, so we don't want to be rough on it, but I do want to just clamp this vice grips on it, just so we're not even on the right mark. All right, now that we're on the right mark, I'm just going to clamp that there. What up? This is a little more difficult. because the engine is swinging around. Pulleys have to be engaged or torqued down to 28 foot-pounds, I think, on these. I'll double check it. But this centerpiece here is the oil pump. But on this car, if it ain't leaking, I'm not messing with it. Alright, I'll grab a torque wrench. And then now I can actually remove this stuff. And what we want to do is we want to do all these lines look good still. Yep, they look good. We're going to manually rotate this over. And all right. Ugh. Now we're gonna have to cut that zip tie. And we want to make sure that we can get back on the timing marks. All right. So that's perfectly straight there, that's perfectly straight there, and that is perfectly straight there. So we are good on the timing, which means I can pull that pin, which now that'll just add more tension through the hydraulics to that. And now I need to grab a torque wrench, crank some of this down, and then we can go ahead and put the timing cover on. So now I have my choice between two harmonic balancers, and we're going to look really closely, and we're just going to find the one where the inner rubber looks a little bit better, which is obviously going to be this one. So they're both probably fine. Neither one looks too bad, but we're going to go with this one. It just looks a lot cleaner. Now there's going to be a little little pin there. Just line that up on there. And then there's two harmonic balancer, or there's two crank bolts around here somewhere. I don't know where the other one is, but all right, that's going to be good for that. Now I know there's a torque spec for it, but that'll work just fine. All right, let's get rid of these. Those are garbage because we have different ones. This is the ground cable. There's also another ground cable down there that goes on this side. Very important to have good grounds, or your sensors won't read right and you'll get sort of goofy electrical issues. You'll have too much going through too little ground, and it'll just start confusing itself. There we go. Just had to find the right spot. There we go. All right, so that is basically good to go back in, and we are almost there. All right, hold on. There we go. These have little tabs in them. If you pinch them the right way in between, not on the little cutouts, but on the longer parts, you can push them in and they'll pull out. Okay, so now it's the next morning, and I have the engine in there and it's started, but there's a bunch of like studs and pins and everything that has to just kind of go together just right. So I need to just make sure that it goes together straight. This isn't one where I can just mate together, throw the bolts in. There's too much going on here. So every once in a while, I like to grab the 1/2-inch breaker bar with a 23. If I can remember where I put anything from yesterday. So, and we're just gonna spin the engine over, make sure that nothing is getting pinched, and it all feels good. So since we have a slightly larger gap on the bottom than we do on the top, what I want to do is go to the bottom and see if I can start tightening some stuff down there. But what's going to happen when I raise it up is the jack that's kind of tilting this transmission up is not going to be there, so it's going to want to cave in like that, which will make my proportions off. So I am going to just add something up here just to keep that gap up. Now when I go to the bottom and tighten it, I'm not going to tighten it because I don't want to put too much stress up here. I'm just going to tighten it enough to maintain that gap down there so we're not flexing, and that should give us hopefully enough to be able to do stuff. Maybe the battery is dead. Alright, so this is the Icon Harbor Freight smoke detector, or vacuum leak tester. And as you can see, I've loosened up this clamp here. And you can see that we're pumping smoke in and we're getting smoke out there. So, tighten up this clamp again. And we have solved our vacuum leak issue. But if there was any other leaks, which I think there might be, there's a small one right here on this ripped hose. But and you can see we still got a little smoke coming out, so we're gonna have to do a little investigating on where that's coming from down here, which I think it's probably gonna be this hose with this little rip in it. But we should be good after we fix that. There's the motor. %, put back together. Just a few little things, little shields and clips and whatnot. And the noise you're hearing is exhaust. So there's a piece of the exhaust that I still have to weld up. It's got a little hole in it, but no big deal. All right, so we are now driving it, just going back to the house to drop it off. But before I put the motor in, we had the brake light flashing, the traction control light on, the cruise control light flashing, the check engine light for a couple misfires, and a P0026, and some other stuff. We had a bunch of other issues going along the way. So with the new motor in, I was able to fix some of that stuff, and some of that stuff just went away on its own now that we have a good running engine in here. And we also had some other things that I fixed. The car was really sluggish. It was restricted, and that turned out to be a clogged converter on here. So after cleaning that out, now the car runs normally. It's not restricted. It feels like a normal car again. Has plenty of zip. So we are all good. So, and then with all the oil that was dumped down the exhaust from the last engine, I did expect smoke when I first started it up, and we did get some. We basically smoked out the block the first time it started. And then after it burned itself off and cleared itself up, it's not smoking anymore. But also when I first started it, or tried to start it, it would just run for a second and then just die, and it just really wouldn't want to idle unless you held the throttle, which is indicative of a vacuum leak, because when you are running at higher RPMs, the additional air from a vacuum leak is less of a factor in the overall air coming in. At lower RPMs, a vacuum leak is more of an overall percentage of the air volume that is actually happening in the engine. So if you floor it and it stays running good and it sounds good, but then it dies at idle, very possibly a vacuum leak. So I ended up smoke testing the motor and found the leak, fixed the leak, and then it started up and ran after that. This is the girlfriend's car, so we're gonna put her back in it, let her do DoorDash for the next couple of days, make sure it's all good and there's nothing else going on with it. And then hopefully that's it. I'm gonna drop the exhaust back out, put new exhaust gaskets in there, because I reused the original exhaust gaskets, which you don't really want to do, but that's what I had, so that's what I put in. And so there's just the tiniest little like of the exhaust leak coming out of the manifold there, which not really a huge deal, just more of a noise thing than anything. But it can affect O2 readings and give you worse performance. It can get rich in the mixture a little bit, because if the air is getting sucked into the exhaust and the O2 sensors are reading more air to fuel ratio that's coming out of your exhaust, what that's going to do is it's going to think that it's running a little lean, and it's going to open the injectors for a slightly longer amount of time and richen up that mixture, which is going to dump more fuel in, which is going to make your mileage go down. So having that little bit of exhaust leak is actually going to negatively affect the performance of this car until I fix it. But even so, it drives fine. You wouldn't even notice it if I didn't tell you. So we should be all good.